im se svima, i malima i velikima, i bogatima i siromašnima, i slobodnjacima i robovima dade žig na njihovu desnu ruku ili na čela njihova, te da nitko ne može ništa kupiti ili prodati, osim onoga ko ima žig ili ime zvijeri ili broj imena njezina.
Pozdrav, dragi narode, dobrodošli u još jednu epizodu Slobodni. Central Bank Digital Currency ili digitalna valuta centralne banke je današnja tema. Svjedoci smo da je Hrvatski sabor odobrio nastavak procedure uvođenja Central Bank Digital eura za Hrvatsku kao i za cijelu eurozonu. Da li znaju što znači Central Bank Digital Currency? To je razlog moje današnje teme i gost, imam čast predstaviti gospodina koji je napravio dokumentarac pod nazivom Central Bank Digital Currency, The End of Money. Njegovo ime je gospodin James Patrick. Hello James, welcome to our show in Croatia.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Can you say just a few words about your background?
Yeah, I'm an investigator, economist, and filmmaker, make documentary films about the biggest issues I think the world is facing right now, and one of them is this continuing to make money more controllable, programmable, and the economic problems this is going to create. This film also addresses the origins of Bitcoin, its relationship with CBDCs, and this effort to tokenize all assets and people in the world. So
that's why today will be very interesting. I prepared some clips from your documentary, and let's start with the first clip.
Okay, thanks.
Central banks around the world are testing, prototyping, and implementing central bank digital currencies. So what are they?
A CBDC is a digital currency that they think is going to replace all physical cash.
Put simply, a central bank digital currency, or a CBDC, is a direct digital liability to the central bank. So rather than have your money in your pocket or in a card with a bank, it's directly maintained by the government.
Central bank digital currencies, I mean, CBDCs are presented as if it's something brand new, when the reality is we've been using BDCs, bank digital currencies, for many decades.
Fundamentally, a CBDC fails to offer anything unique for consumer. The only benefit that a CBDC seems to offer is for governments that want to enact more control.
A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of central bank liability, and also we will have the technology to enforce that.
Well, I heard that CBDC failed to offer anything unique to consumers. Can you explain this?
Yeah, it's CBDCs don't offer any benefit to people. It really just introduces a new form of money that's more controllable, programmable, and there's the focus appears to be to create a controllable, programmable money. But I call the film The End of Money because it's really not. The four definitions of money are store of value, transportable, divisible, and readily exchangeable. If you create a money with all these controls in it, it's no longer a store of value if they program it to lose its value after 6 months, which many of them do, and they can restrict what you can and can't buy and where you can buy with the money. Then it's really the two of the four definitions of money are no longer valid. So I think it's really a digression. It's not money. It's sort of a control platform. It's like credits at the company store. It's like just coupons you get from the grocery store. It's not real money anymore.
Then why they are pushing if they don't offer anything unique for consumers and we don't have any advantages? Why we would accept it?
I mean, there's oligarchs sort of behind the government and the central banks pushing these control systems to control us, but I think that's the reason why. I think people might be forced to accept it, but I don't think it'll work. I think it'll create a black market if they really push a dysfunctional controlled money. I think it'll hurt the economy. Trade will go down. People will look for other alternatives. It'll be like the Soviet period where, a big black market emerges. The prices are high on the black market in real terms, and I think we'll see other solutions like regional monies. Maybe some towns and cities and companies will issue their own monies. So if they do this, it'll be very dysfunctional. I think it would really hurt the world a lot. It would hurt the market.
What do you mean by oligarchs who is standing behind this?
This is being pushed by the central banks and the Bank of International Settlements. So the Bank of International Settlements is the central bank of central banks. It's kind of a class of people, it's like Rockefeller, Rothschild level international banking families, and they're very close with the central banks. They created the central banks to control the money, and so the Bank of International Settlements set up a tech incubator called the Innovation Hub, and this tech incubator planted all the CBDC programs in each country. So every country in the world, basically, maybe other than 5 or so, including Russia, Belarus, Brazil, every BRICS nations, Western nations. This is it's one of these illustrating facts that shows that there's a class of international bankers influencing all the world's governments in the same way. So even though now U.S. is fighting Russia, like in 1984, you had East Asia versus Eurasia, but in the end, all the world's governments are implementing environmental regulations. They're all implementing central bank digital currencies, and they're implementing digital IDs. And digital IDs are needed to make the central bank digital currencies work. So they first need to ID you and digitally verify you with biometrics and link your identity with your wallet. And then they can control you, what you can and can't purchase, knowing it's you that they're controlling.
Yeah, we'll come to this later to discuss a little bit more about it. They tried to do this in Nigeria, but they failed.
Yeah, in 2016, they launched the first digital ID program in India. And then in 2020, they launched the first sort of full CBDC program in Nigeria in a matter of, they tried to do it in 2 months. So this is one of the most informal cash economies in the world, Nigeria. And they invalidated all the cash money and introduced the CBDC and tried to do it in 2 months. And it was a total disaster. There was riots outside the central bank. They shot people outside the central bank. And I think after a couple months after that, they had to reintroduce cash. But everyone lost their savings. They had really chaotic, dysfunctional situation go on. So that's a good sign that failed.
Maybe they learned something from it, and next time they would do it differently. You said that everybody lost their savings. It could be triggered to take over digital money. In case of bank run, you can say, look, okay, you lost your savings, but you can save it if you open digital wallet, and I can give you the same amount of digital money.
Yeah, there's definitely a big link between the welfare or government unemployment payments and CBDC. So in Thailand, they piloted a program and they said, well, you get $250 if you join the system. You have to get a digital ID and you get your CBDC wallet, and then we'll give you $250, which in Thailand is not a little money. It's for most people. But then they're tagged with an ID. They're in the tax system. And then they said, oh, but this money, it goes bad after 6 months. It'll become useless after 6 months. And you can only use it on groceries, maybe something at the hardware store, and only within 4 kilometers of your home. So that's where this is going. That's the idea behind these things, is to really trap people in their local area and give them this inferior form of controlled money that's only valid in your little area.
Yeah, the biggest danger is because there is a possibility that this money can be programmable. Let's roll next clip.
As Carol Quigley of Georgetown University once said, there exists a worldwide system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. At the apex of this system is the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, the central bank of central banks. The Bank of International Settlements has created a CBDC program in practically every country of the world through its Innovation Hub, the tech incubator set up for this purpose. The vision these autocrats have for us is to make our money programmable.
The really big dangers of CBDCs are programmability, which is that essentially it's not even money. It's like your money becomes potential money.
The whole thing about programmable money is they decide when you will have access to it and how you will be able to spend it even. Let's say you're grocery shopping, and since you're expecting guests on the weekend, you buy 4 or 5 bottles of wine, right? On the way home, you decide to fill up your car with gas. You stop at the gas station, but you're not going to be able to pump the gas. Well, you just bought alcohol, right? Look to China. That is going to be our future. And it's not going to be a future in like 30, 40, 50 years from now. It is happening now.
CBDC can allow government agencies and private sector players to allow targeted policy functions. For example, welfare payment. For example, consumption coupon. For example, food stamp.
If Congress decides that we should defund the fossil fuel industry, it would be easy for them to say, you know, the money we're lending you, you're not allowed to lend to the oil industry. And that means politicizing the allocation of credit, which is a very dangerous thing to do.
This is something that affects both sides of the aisle, really, because the options for control through things like programmability are really limitless. It just depends who's in power.
Really what they're doing is having more control over who can buy, who can sell, who can save, and if they want at any point, they can use those programs and the protocols and the blockchains to blacklist your money, to prevent you from making a transaction.
If you think about the benefits of digital money, you can have programmability. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it, or a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable, like say ammunition or drugs or pornography or something of the sort. And that is very powerful in terms of the use of a CBDC.
In 2019, we had MasterCard introduce a credit card in conjunction with the United Nations that monitored your carbon footprint.
It's the first credit card ever to stop you from overspending, in line with the UN 2030 recommendation.
And once you hit a certain level, it cut off spending,
bringing it to a direct halt, making it a radical tool against climate change.
The Bank of England was the first to come out and said, oh, well, you know, they should be programmable. The excuse was laughable, but they said a mother should be able to prevent her child from buying a chocolate bar for lunch instead of a sandwich. If a mother can program what you're not allowed to buy, they can. All right, that's the back door.
When they describe programmability, that's what it's all about. That you can, I mean, of course, they present it from a positive side. We can give money to the people who really need it. That's how they will formulate it. But the other side of the coin is that this means that they have their ideas on who should spend money on what and when.
When I say that they will use this CBDC for controlling of people, and they said, no, it's not true, it's conspiracy theory. And then after that, I asked them easily, then why this money is programmable? What is your answer for that?
Yeah, it's not fulfilling a market need. It's not. No one's asking for this. It's not filling a need of people. It's taking away a function of money. I mean, it's not money if they can program it. It's contradictory to the definition of money. It's ridiculous. So there's no need for this, and we shouldn't do it.
And in this story, we have something that fits perfectly, and it's new climate change policy. It's not new. It already lasts a couple of years, but now, especially in Croatia, now they are pushing much harder. And we saw in your documentary there is a credit card. They are measuring footprint, carbon footprint. Mm-hmm. And if they want to reduce carbon footprint, they can program your money not to allow you to buy, for example, meat.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is they're demonizing cows and meat. And I did a film on the Dutch farmers. We just see this constant propaganda against farmers and food production. And I think that's some scheme to control the food industry or or to create public opinion that's against farmers, so then they can buy up the sector and then re-engineer it or restructure the food system to be more industrial, kind of unhealthy food. But these are sort of related issues. But controlling how people can buy and sell, what they're allowed to buy and sell, this is where this is going with this digital money. And I think they're going to use these sort of arguments, whether they're environmental. They could say, well, it's for the environment. They could say it's for being a good citizen. They could restrict people saying, oh, you're anti-Semitic, you're a pro-Russia person, or you're bad for the environment, you're selfish. And so it's like these in the Soviet Union. You guys lived through that with they'd say the new Soviet man. If you're not for the system, then you're an enemy of the state. You're a counter-revolutionary conspiracy theorist. It's this sort of same line of propaganda, except there are a little different arguments today. Today it's the environment, it's this, that, it's hate speech, or you have the right to speech but not to be heard, all these things.
Yeah, and we see the same thing now in China. They have social credit system, and they already implemented this digital money there. And people, if they don't have enough score, they cannot buy things, they cannot travel, and they are punished. That means they are totally controlled.
Yeah.
And seems to that this is something what they want for us.
Yeah, China is sort of like a testing country for them. I think they have these same World Economic Forum meetings in China, just as big as the West. A lot of people don't know that, but I visited China several times. One time, like 6 years ago, I went to the main tech city. It was way more advanced than anything you see in the West, with cameras everywhere. Everyone was paying with money, with WeChat and WePay, Alipay. So it definitely looks like China's kind of a testing bed country, where these international bankers, oligarchs, are sort of testing these control technologies in like a controlled system like China. So you really, it's not bad to look at China to understand what they're going to bring here later. I think EU is really a highly controlled region of the world. The people are quite domesticated and pro-government in many of the countries, depending on the area. I don't know Croatia, but in Sweden they're very domesticated. So they're. And I think in the U.S. it's less controllable, so they're going for propaganda to divide the U.S. and make a lot of internal fighting. EU people are they probably more accepting of these control things. So
yes, in Croatia they're also trying to divide people, because we are facing for years already fight between left and right, and always far left says that far right is wrong, and they are fighting, but they don't see that both of them have a same enemy, and this enemy is globalism. That means new system. I had one interview about stakeholder capitalism. The stakeholder capitalism is the future of economy, and this system is enemy of everybody. Left, right, center, doesn't matter. They want to control everybody.
Yeah. It's pretty ambitious, huh?
Yeah, yes. Well, we have potential alternative, maybe. We'll see now. We cannot talk about digital money without mentioning the famous Bitcoin, but there is other digital money, independent, that are not established by the central banks. Let's roll next clip.
Mm-hmm.
The documentary on CBDCs would not be whole unless it touched on the subject of Bitcoin. We must understand that without the invention of Bitcoin, CBDCs would not have been possible. In the middle of the financial crisis of 2008, Bitcoin was released anonymously onto cypherpunk forums. It was the first peer-to-peer encrypted digital money system that utilized blockchain technology. Now let's take a look at the background of Bitcoin.
At this very important time in US dollar history, right as the great financial crisis is like peaking.
The stock market is now down 21%. It was the worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
This could be the most serious recession in decades.
What started in America last year has now spread to every part of the world.
It was released anonymously into the cypherpunk mailing list.
Now, this is the first peer-to-peer monetary transaction. In other words, you didn't need to go through a bank or a financial middle person.
The Bitcoin white paper that was published by an anonymous person.
Satoshi is what everybody calls him, right? Yeah. We don't even know if it's a him or her. We know nothing about this person. Publishes a fairly elaborate, brief white paper, which describes the technical basis for this new thing that the unknown person is calling Bitcoin.
The program was launched. I had won a victory against the banks, against state power.
It's immediately painted as this anti-dollar system, anti-central bank technology.
Crypto people aren't just in it to make a buck, they're in it to change the world forever.
Crypto is as important of an invention as the birth of the internet.
There's a lot of merit to it. If you're in a country where you're fearful of your government, fearful of geopolitical risk, this is a great potential long-term store of value.
It's no different than what gold represented over thousands of years. If the world is more frightened, it is a asset class that protects you.
Right. You could buy and sell your Bitcoin, no different than gold.
Is Bitcoin a true revolution from the beginning, or was it always planned to be this Trojan horse for the Internet of Things? I'm not sure.
And I don't care if it was the CIA. It doesn't matter. The idea is still a great idea. Obviously, it was the CIA. I think we all know that. It's like Signal. They got there first. It's honey trap.
Blockchain was invented by Bitcoin and forms the technological basis of CBDCs. The true identity of Bitcoin's inventor, Satoshi Nakamoto, remains a secret to this day. A man named Craig Wright claimed to be Satoshi, and another man was accused of being him. Both of these men made suspicious remarks implying that Bitcoin was an intelligence operation of some kind.
Newsweek reports that he is the mastermind behind Bitcoin.
64-year-old Dorian Satoshi Nakamoto emerged and walked right into a media frenzy. When confronted about Bitcoin, he said, "I am no longer involved in that, and I cannot discuss it."
I was the main part of it. Other people helped me. I didn't decide. I had people decide this matter for me.
Now, there remains the possibility that the central bankers utilized the Western intelligence services to create Bitcoin. Bitcoin tested and prototyped cryptocurrency technology and served to market digital money as cool and anti-system. And now, 15 years later, with all the programming having been done and the technology in a more mature state, the central bankers can cherry-pick the best tech with which to deploy their CBDCs worldwide.
It's incredibly likely that Bitcoin was an intelligence operation that came out of the US or Britain or, some sort of kind of the Five Eyes kind of system. It's entirely possible. I mean, there's a lot of connections with certain algorithms to the NSA. SHA-256, which is kind of the main hashing algorithm in Bitcoin, was invented by the NSA.
We are also now...
Well, everybody have a question about Bitcoin. Is it really independent, or is it just some kind of operation from the side of Secret Service or the NIH, what you mentioned here, or CIA, what Tucker Carlson said?
Yeah, I think I was an early supporter of Bitcoin. I fell for the story, but it's sort of after making Planet Lockdown and looking into this more, it does seem like the central bankers got the intelligence services to make Bitcoin as a way to sort of get the technology out there and make the first invention and market it as cool and get people comfortable with using digital money. I think if they just came out with CBDCs, no one would want them. So they needed to get people to start to use digital money and get comfortable with it. And what better way than to launch Bitcoin, have everyone who uses it get rich, and they kind of lure people into the use of the technology through making money, through profit. So now we're seeing Bitcoin go up very high. It probably will. It remains to be seen. Maybe they'll leave it as a parallel asset class in this new financial system. But I think you can make money with it. But at the same time, it is sort of a part of the problem. I mean, the use of this technology is a problem. But again, on the other hand, like you could have a good form of digital money or cryptocurrency you could use with privacy in it. But what's going on now is I think the Bitcoin enthusiasts don't appreciate the privacy problems and the sort of civil rights problems with Bitcoin. They only look at the good side and not the bad side. And the privacy problems, the authoritarian digital society issues that that Bitcoin is introduced, I think need to be looked at more by people, more skeptically.
I heard some statements from the side of new administration in the United States. Trump said that he will ban central bank digital dollar. But also I heard from his administration suggest to invest in cryptocurrencies, in crypto money. If everything is controlled from both sides, that means Bitcoin and the central bank digital money is controlled from the one source, then this statement doesn't have any sense.
Yeah, one thing I think in U.S. and U.K. they're not going to do a CBDC, and there are constitutional problems with introducing CBDC in the United States that they can't resolve or get around. So it looks like what they're doing is making bank issue stable coins. So there's like JP Morgan and Bank of America will have JP Morgan coin, Bank of America dollar token coin, and it's basically dollar-backed digital stable coins. So they'll make, and then these stable coins can be programmed just the same way as CBDCs. So we also have lots of anti-money laundering, know your customer regulations. There's lots of financial controls and regulations in the system that we could have a CBDC type control system without CBDCs. So the issues I'm presenting that CBDCs present about restrictions of our rights, programmability, this can happen also without CBDCs, but with normal bank issue stable coins. And so I think this is more than just a CBDC issue. It's a financial freedom issue that we need to be concerned about.
You're also talking in documentary about they want tokenize all assets. And I had an interview with Elizabeth Nixon, and she told me that in the United States and Canada, they want to tokenize even nature. They want to build nature fund, and they will tokenize all nature.
Yeah, Larry Fink of BlackRock said he wanted to create a world ledger of all the world's assets and have everybody on this, every person, piece of property, assets, all on one world ledger. And then we'll all have our digital ID, and we'll be registered when we go buy anything, buy any stock. So it's that's very concerning. And then there was this other initiative, the Rockefeller that you're mentioning, the natural asset companies. They launched this thing called the Intrinsic Exchange Group in the summer of 2020. They had so much success screwing us in COVID in March. Then by the summer, they launched this new scam where they said, okay, well, we want to say that we can put what things that nature produces, like abstract, intangible assets, like the hydrologic cycle over Croatia, like the system of raining, the water hydrologic cycle over Croatia, and put that in a company, and have the company own this piece of nature that no one can touch. And then I asked one banker, I said, "What are they doing here with this? This is crazy. Like they're putting these," and he told me, what they're doing is they're creating more collateral. So if all the world's assets now are like $500 trillion, they're saying they could maybe create $4 quadrillion of assets by commoditizing, putting natural, intangible pieces of nature in these companies, and then leveraging it up with collateral many times over to kind of bubble out the financial system even more. But this is very dangerous. This is crazy, and it will definitely lead to a bubble and a bust. It'll lead. This historically, when people have done things like this in the past, it's led to a financial collapse, like the South Sea bubble or the Mississippi bubble, where France was in the French stock markets. They were issuing securities based on land that they claimed they owned, but they had never visited. So this is the same kind of idea as what they're talking about here.
Is it possible that I heard it's not only theory, it was explanation that Western financial system, what we now have in Europe and United States, is already in bankrupt. And now they want to build a new one because people who brought this system to the end, they want to control building a new one. They cannot admit, look, we brought this system to the end and now, of course, we are responsible. No, we are offering something better. And they want exactly save their control for the future, because they cannot anymore control this financial system, because all countries and most of the people are living on debt and nobody can repay anymore these debts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a way of controlling people. It's a way of creating a kind of slavery, is that you base the money on debt and you have people operate on debts and then they have to repay the debts. It's kind of like in the feudal system where the lord would own the land and then he would rent the land to the people and then they would have to work 3 months a year to pay the rent for living on the land. It's the same kind of idea, except here there's no lords anymore. These bankers overthrew the monarchs, aristocracy, and the church several hundred years ago now, or really World War One. I say the French Revolution was the beginning of that, and then World War One was the completion of that. But then now we have these banking interests, and they created these government tax systems, money printing power. Everything is based on debt. So now this financial system is sort of entering its end stages, and they're going to try to collapse this one, reset things, and put in a new one that'll have more controls and be less free.
Yes, that can be chance to offer us something new, a new concept, and one of these new concepts is also UBS, Universal Basic, UBE, Universal Basic Income. But we'll come to this. For that purpose, you said we need to have digital ID, and we need to have also digital wallet. For that, we need infrastructure. Let's see next clip.
Witnessing the rapid development of the Internet of Things and the Internet of Bodies. These are all information networks linking all people and things to the Internet. As well, NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, further build out the underlying technology required to enable digital IDs to take shape.
Internet of Things, or IoT, refers to billions of physical devices around the world that are now connected to the Internet, collecting and sharing data.
The Internet of Bodies, or IOB, is actually an ecosystem. It's a bunch of devices that are connected to the Internet that contain software and that either collect personal health data about you or can alter the body's function. We think of the Internet of Bodies as this collection of all these devices as well as all the data that the devices are gathering about you.
Now to the latest trend that's sweeping the Internet, called NFT.
They're now selling for huge bucks.
Non-fungible tokens are digital tokens that enable true ownership of any kind of digital assets. You can't touch it, but you can own it. Told you had to pay attention.
NFTs are unique, encrypted, unforgeable ID tags for any object or asset, physical or virtual. This tech can be directly applied to the Internet of Things and the Internet of Bodies. Were NFTs also promoted to spur the development of tokenizing all assets worldwide? I suspect so.
Decentralized identifiers leverage proven cryptographic systems. When Alice presents her credentials, her digital wallet generates a unique identifier and signs it using a private key, secured by a biometric proof or PIN that only she knows. Decentralized identifiers leverage proven cryptographic systems.
Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI and ChatGPT, launched a project called WorldCoin. He stated his motivation to launch the project was to build the infrastructure needed for a universal basic income.
I thought that if we could do something to eventually redistribute wealth through some sort of global UBI at scale, or maybe even access to these systems, which would be the most important component of wealth someday.
Sam Altman has doubled down on his vision for another one of his ventures, WorldCoin cryptocurrency, that offers digital currency, sometimes for free, to those willing to scan their irises into a spherical device.
Many critics of CBDCs fear that a universal basic income will be the bait to gull the public into accepting a CBDC.
Universal basic income can be the bait for central bank digital currency, in case of Europe, central bank digital euro. And we have infrastructure, and this infrastructure is called Internet of Things and Internet of Bodies. Can you explain what is Internet of Things?
Basically, the Internet is just a network of computers, but the Internet of Things is really the interaction of physical objects hooked to the Internet. So every phone we have, the idea is basically linking everything to the Internet. Your car, your phone, that your clothes could have tags on them, that there's sensors picking up everything, that is basically integrating. The Internet is just online. It's the idea of Internet of Things is linking the real world, connecting each object to the Internet, and having a sort of monitored online world where there's the Internet of all the things in the world. So the next and then another thing is called the Internet of Bodies. This has a lot of a medical field, putting sensors in people, having a lot of biosensors on the body to monitor the body. So this is very creepy. I don't think we need to go down this road, but we're all sort of like victims of this stuff with these telephones. I think the people should probably. I think it's made people quite mentally ill. All these telephones and all this stuff. So I don't know. Sometimes I wish we didn't have all this technology because it's really making people mentally sick.
Is it true that for this Internet of Things and exactly Internet of Bodies, that's new generation of Internet calling 6G?
I don't think you need 6G. I mean, just in general, like there's just more and more data needed to be collected. People are watching more and more movies on their phones. The data systems need more capacity, more bandwidth every year. So I don't really go down this road of 5G, 6G being a sort of weapon system or something like that. I think it's just more that there's more and more data capacity is needed to run an Internet of Things, to have all the vehicles hooked up to the internet, to have like high bandwidth streams of data, again integrating the real world with the internet. So, but it's creepy that you think that crime would not be allowed anymore. Everything will be monitored. Everything is on a camera. Everything's on a sensor. Every time you leave your house, every time you do something in your house, what you put in your refrigerator would be detected. What you every person you talk to, even not on the telephone, they would know. So this is just sort of a weird dystopian world that I don't think is that livable. I don't think we want to live in a world like that.
But I don't hear that they ask us about this. They're just implementing, doesn't care. We have in Croatia, so in Zagreb, they're implementing cameras all around the city. Nobody's asking people, are they ready to give them, chance to monitor them all the time? They said, okay, this is for protection, for example, in traffic. But doesn't have any logic that you put few thousand cameras just because of some traffic jam or maybe some accident. That doesn't sound logic.
Yeah, it's a surveillance integration. It's happening everywhere. So we need more public discussion of this and politicians to fight this. It's not good for society. I think there's no benefit.
Yeah, we saw in the documentary Sam Altman. He made ChatGPT exactly open AI, and I saw, and it's inevitable that in the next few months and years, lots of jobs will be replaced by the artificial intelligence. That means there will be chance for them to offer, okay, you lost your job, but I can offer you universal basic income, and for that you need digital wallet and take digital money.
Yeah, Sam is a very creepy guy. I mean, recently, this last week, his sister accused him of sexually abusing her, and he's married to a man. And just we always have these nerdy oligarchs trying to control us. But yeah, it's a big problem. I definitely get the sense that we could be facing an economic crisis, and then after a collapse, people will be more willing to accept a UBI with the digital ID. So right now I'm working on another film on the Great Taking, on a sort of broad market collapse, basically stealing everyone's stocks and bond investments. And then in that kind of a collapse scenario, CBDCs would become a lot more possible for them. So I think people should put their money outside of the stock market into some gold, into some real things, and then be able to survive a period like that. And also, I mean, we should really fix this property rights to securities issue and demand our governments not cooperate with these central bank digital currency programs, because it's not going to be a fun world with all these systems in place.
Yeah, I had the interview with David Roger Webb about his book, Great Taken. But can you tell just in a few sentences what this means, what he's telling us in this book?
In a few sentences, basically, for the last 40 years, the financial industry has been using everyone's stocks and bonds as collateral on financial bets, on derivatives trades. So they've been basically using out of these central clearinghouses, these central securities depositories. In EU, it's Euroclear. In Belgium. In the US, it's Deposit Trust Corporation, New York. And the bankers have been dipping into the $130 trillion of securities, of stocks and bonds, and then making like about 1.5 or $2 quadrillion of derivatives contracts. And then basically, when those contracts, if they fail, if we have a crash in the derivatives market, that the secured creditors, the banks of the secured creditors of the derivatives contracts have a legal priority to your stocks and bonds as collateral. So they substituted direct ownership of stocks and bonds with a contractual claim on a stock and bond called the securities entitlement. And then they gave the banks priority to take your stocks and bonds in the event of an insolvency or a collapse, because a contractual claim in bankruptcy law comes last and a secured creditor comes first. So they switched the legal relationship. They basically violated 1,000 years of law, and the bankers gave themselves priority to our own savings, which is just ridiculous. So now there's a legal effort in the United States to reform this. I think on the state level in the EU, that would have to mean basically the destruction of the EU or pulling out of the EU, because this was achieved through these, in Europe, called these Central Securities Depository Regulations, CSDRs. So it's quite a complicated issue. It would take a little more time to explain, but I'm coming out with a film on that next week. So
maybe the easiest way is to say that we have ownership. We think that we have it, but it could happen that our ownership is already gave as a collateral to somebody else without our knowledge.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. That there's an appearance of ownership, but in reality, the banks own the property, and in a crisis scenario can take it. So it's a Armageddon scenario, and if a scenario like that takes place, that's I think when the CBDCs would be really pushed hard. So
and
it's a connected issue.
And of course, everything is legal.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not. I mean, it violates the constitutions of most European countries. So the way that they achieve this is they in the 1970s they changed the constitution of Belgium, put the central clearinghouse there, Euroclear, and then created EU regulations to move the collateral up to Belgium. So it does violate the constitution of France and Italy and all these countries, because property is a sacred principle. So it's kind of it's on the edge of legal. You know, it's like all these things. They get you to violate your constitution with the treaty, or they do it with the sneaky little law. But I think you can make a strong argument it's illegal too. You know.
Well, we need to say something for the end to our audience. We have now so-called climate crisis in Europe, because I heard that United States will leave this Paris Agreement. That means we have in Europe only Europe climate crisis. We implemented new decarbonization policies. At the same time, we voted last year for digital ID and digital wallet. And now we are pushing hard central bank digital currency. What regular people who believe what we are telling now without any checking, because they can check, they can take a look at your documentary or some other of my shows. What you can say to them, how they can fight still against it if they can?
I mean, I think it's gonna mean pressure on government or local government. I mean, in the United States, our federal government is very corrupt. I'm from Washington, I know. So, but the state government, you have possibilities. So, I think it's in the U.S. I don't know. It's harder for me to answer about in Croatia, but in the United States, I think getting state governments, there's an effort to create gold depositories where we can create gold-backed money, develop local relationships with farmers, with other people that produce things, so that you can survive a crazy period. But I think these problems are not going to fix themselves. We need to put pressure on the government to good people to go into politics to fix these things. If we just opt out and go live on a farm and everything, I mean, you should be prepared, but we need to fight this. They're not going to fix themselves. And I would encourage people to enter politics to really fight this thing and to get out of the EU. The EU is a system of controlling these countries centrally from Brussels, but ultimately from London or these big banking interests kind of control the EU. It's not a democratic system. They totally they go around your country's constitutions and they push these orders down on each country and oppress them. Again, it's like the UBI. They say, hey, Croatia, we'll give you some money for this project, that project, but then it comes with all these controls. So I think in the end, the quality of life was better before the euro. Things were cheaper. You had a more affordable economy for the average person. So I think people need to wake up to this stuff, get out of the EU, and go to a national governments again. Strengthen your national government, and your local. So get involved. Basically, I think is the solution.
Thank you, James. We'll speak soon about your new documentary, and I wish you good luck in your future work.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate having me on here. Have a good day, huh?
You too. Evo, dragi narode, imali ste priliku vidjeti u mojim emisijama što kažu stručnjaci o takozvanoj klimatskoj krizi. Imate Rogera Pilkeja Jr., gospođu Judith Curry, da ne nabrajam još one koji su došli i pričali o toj krizi. A mi u Hrvatskoj imamo implementaciju dekarbonizacije i novih politika koji će zaštititi planet Zemlju. Istovremeno izglasali smo prije 2 mjeseca opet u parlamentu da se nastavlja proces Central Bank Digital Currency, odnosno digitalnog eura, a kako smo ušli u eurozonu, mi više nemamo nikakav utjecaj na monetarnu politiku. Među ostalima, najvažniji razlog za inflaciju je monetarna politika Europske centralne banke i sada veliku inflaciju koju svjedočimo i u stvari samo posljedica koju je svaki ekonomist mogao očekivati, osim političara koji su vam objašnjavali da su ipak Rusi i rusko-ukrajinski rat krivi za to. Onda imamo istovremeno izglasane prošle godine u proljeće digitalni ID i digitalni novčanik. Istovremeno se implementira i 5G mreža kako bi se upravo infrastruktura stvorila da se povežu Internet of Things, dakle povezano naših aparata za telefon ili frižidera ili automobila, i Internet of Bodies, dakle to je sistem u kome ćemo vrlo brzo, već postoji tehnologija, biti kontrolirani da nam se zdravlje zaštiti. Dakle, da se na vrijeme može intervenirati ako se slučajno, ne daj Bože, nešto dogodi naše zdravlje. I sada, kad ubacite u tu formulu Central Bank Digital Money, koji je moguće programirati, recite mi što će se dogoditi kada dođe neki, kao što je recimo u Kanadi bio Trudeau, ili kao što je na kraju krajeva i naš premijer za vrijeme pandemije bio, spreman da koristi totalitarne ovlasti koje mu tehnologija omogućava. Koliko će dugo trebati da uistinu to ne iskoristi? Unatoč tome što će to biti protuustavno. Svjedočili smo da su mnoge stvari oko kojih još uvijek nismo raspravili do kraja bile protuustavne. Imamo i mišljenje izdvojeno sudaca koji objašnjavaju zašto su bile protuustavne. Međutim, danas moramo biti svjesni toga da tehnologija omogućava svakom potencijalnom diktatoru, u njegovoj glavi diktatoru, da primjeni diktaturu i da je vrlo efikasno iskoristi u svakom pogledu za potpunu kontrolu. Naći će vam uvijek neko objašnjenje i to objašnjenje će uvijek biti za vaše dobro. Sad si postavite pitanje da li uistinu vaša vlada više brine o vašem dobru nego vi sami. Odgovor znate, naravno da ne. Zato postavite pitanje svojim predstavnicima u Saboru. Zašto su tako olako prihvatili da Hrvatska također uđe u proces digitalnog eura? Kad kažem digitalno, mislim na Central Bank digitalno euro, jer mi digitalni novac koristimo već desetljećima. To je ono što vidite na novčaniku, na mobitelu, gdje su samo brojke ukucane. To je digitalni novac, ali nije centralizirani. I taj novac se nalazi, odnosno to je novac vaše banke. Ovaj je centralizirani, ići će od centralne, u našem slučaju, Europske centralne banke. I kada bude moguće ga programirati, a to je prvom implementacijom, onda ćete vi biti ograničeni u svom kretnji, kupovini, odlučivanju što sa svojim životom, odlučivanju što sa svojim novcem. Zašto? Da se spasi planet ili zbog većeg dobra? Ili vam zvuči to poznato? Razmislite dobro o ovome što sam danas prezentirao, pogledajte dokumentarni film, preporučujem ga još jedanput, bit će u poveznici ispod ovog videa. Pogledajte u detalje, nije to jedini dokumentarni koji govori o tim stvarima, ali je izuzetno važan jer mi kao Hrvatska upravo svjedočimo implementaciji digitalnog eura i moramo znati što nam to nosi. Da li ćemo tako lako prepustiti svoje slobode? Čini se da svaka generacija se nanovo mora izboriti za svoju slobodu. 90-ih smo u Hrvatskoj se borili oružjem za slobodu i neovisnost, a sada je neko drugo oružje u pitanju, neki drugi alati, a i nova generacija će se ipak morat boriti za slobodu, ali ovaj put za slobodu da ne završe u digitalnom zatvoru. Hvala lijepo na pažnji i uskoro se vidimo u sljedećoj epizodi Slobodni.
Nitko vas neće natjerati da se poklonite zvijeri, učinit ćete to svojevoljno, odbacujući vjeru. Bićete laka meta za zvijeri, jer se niste podredili vjeri. Ako se ne podredite vjeri, podredit ćete se zvijeri. Toliko ćete se suobličiti sa ovim svijetom, da nećete ni prepoznati da ste u zabludi. Biće to najveća demonska prevara ikada i pravedno zaslužena osuda nad nepokajanim grešnicima.
Gdje su svi oni koji su